So guys, I've decided today a training game today because tomorrow I'm going to host a simultaneous chess game. So I figured that in order not to come too rusty to the game, I shall have a classical game on lichess. So we're playing against LM. I'm not sure what this stands for. Maybe the M is definitely for master, but what is L? I'm not so sure. We have a grunfeld defense here, and white is playing this rare move queen to b3. I don't particularly afraid of this move. I feel like both capturing on c3 and retreating to b6 should be okay. Yes, and I will just keep normal development. So probably the logical move here for white would be to proceed with normal development. Yes, knight f3. Let's castle. So we have, I think white will now either play e3 or first bishop out and then e3, and we will eventually get this typical f2, e3, d4, c3 pawn chain, very typical to the grunfeld defense. A very solid pawn structure for white, aiming to restrict the activity of the bishop on g7. And my main source of counterplay is connected to the pawn push c5. So now it's kind of a big question. Yeah, so bishop f4. So he wants to get the bishop out of the pawn chain before playing the move e3. So this is sensible. But the thing is that now white is slightly lagging in the development of his king side. So his king is quite far away from castling normally. So I'm thinking whether I can disturb his development a bit with c takes d4 followed by queen a5 check. Or first start off with knight c6. Also seems well, let's play knight c6. I kinda like keeping the tension. I'm not too much afraid of d5 because that's releasing my bishop on g7. So interesting to see what white will play now. The logical thing would be to develop the bishop on f1 and try to castle. But as soon as white is going to play a move like bishop e2, I will definitely capture on d4 followed by queen a5 check, and I will do my best to disturb his normal development. Yeah, now white needs to make, yeah, e takes d4. Now this is precisely the kind of move that I'm happy to provoke, because now this pawn structure of e4, pawn on d4 and c3 is much less stable than a pawn being on e3, having one pawn island with those pawns. So I should be happy in this scenario. Now I like this move, obviously hitting the queen on b3, but also taking a look at this square on c4. My plan of development for the next moves would be probably something like b6, bishop b7, trying to get the bishop to the long diagonal. and then perhaps playing against those hanging pawns on c3 and d4. Those pawns are quite potentially quite weak, and I do have the open c file and the open d file to put pressure against them in the long run. So I'm quite optimistic about my chances. Queen a3. Okay, so the queen is looking at my pawn on e7. This means that my queen wouldn't be able to develop so easily. So I also can consider bishop to e6, trying to gain some control over the light squares. But I kinda like b6. The bishop on b7 would be quite a nice piece, I believe. So in this kind of hanging pawns scenarios, it's always a big question whether the side with the hanging pawns can actually make something active out of them, try to advance them. Because if those pawns are becoming blocked, so in the long run, once again, I can have a very unpleasant pressure against them. So yeah, rook e1. He's trying to put pressure against my pawn on e7. But this pressure is not so scary for me, I believe, because I can always play the move e6, which I might actually do right now. I can also further develop a rook and kind of check the ground a bit. Okay, let's play e6, that seems solid enough. You will have this option of bishop d6 right now, which he didn't have before, but I think I can very calmly play rook e8, and then it's a bit unclear whether the move bishop d6 really achieved anything substantial. Yeah, rook c1. Okay, so white is kind of just perhaps preparing the advance of the pawn on c4. That's sensible. Now I would like to develop my rook finally to the game. So rook c8 seems like an easy move to make. Let's see, now one of the problems for white actually, that he cannot actually play the move c4 so easily, because then he has to consider moves like bishop takes f3 and if the bishop takes back, the pawn on c4 would be hanging, as well as the pawn on d4. So he has to be careful. Now my next move is almost for sure going to be queen to d5. With the idea to put pressure on this long diagonal, as well as supporting the knight entering the c4 square. Rook d1. Well, this is not exactly disturbing my queen d5 move, so I think I will play it. Don't see a particular reason not to. Seems like a nice centralized square for the queen. Yeah, now it's a bit unclear what exactly is going to be White's next move, because the knight is pinned essentially, except for knight e1. The bishop doesn't have too much useful things to do. The bishop f4, same story. So he can just play random half useful moves like h3. But I'm already kind of ready to jump to c4. And also in the worst case scenario, if I will decide not to play the move knight c4 yet, I always have another useful move to make, like rook f to d8, developing the rook also. So anyway, I will have I think the easier decisions to make than him. I'm also having a nice time advantage. This is something I'm not used to have that much. I'm usually the one who is having the time trouble. It's actually feeling nice to have a time advantage. It feels like even if White will surprise you with an unexpected move or a very aggressive move, you will always have time to kind of think and analyze things through, so you will never be in trouble. Yeah, so he decided to go for knight e1. Now he might want to exchange those bishops with bishop f3, even though I must say that exchanging those bishops is not necessarily something that I will not welcome, because this actually strengthened my control over the c4 square. But the big question is, can I play the move knight c4? And the reason that this is a big question is because my pawn on a7 would be hanging in this scenario. And I really don't want to force the game too much, because he's the one who is in a bit of time trouble, and I think I will only help him if I will force the game. So I will just go with development, rook f d8. He will probably play bishop f3, but as I mentioned, I don't mind too much exchanging those bishops. Yeah, so now my opponent is going to be below 1 minute. So time is becoming a serious factor right now. I'm really wondering why my opponent was thinking for so much, because I don't feel like there was any specific, particular, important, critical moment in this game that that kind of was forcing White to think for a lot of time. It were all kind of positional decisions which could be made much faster. But now he played queen to a4. So perhaps he's trying to avoid the move bishop f8 being a tempo move. Once again, I can consider the move knight c4, but I have the same troubles with the pawn on a7. I can consider the move bishop c6 though. This looks nice because then the queen is once again forced into an uncomfortable square, such as c2 or back on a3 where it came from. I kind of like this move. What other options do I have? Queen d7 comes to mind. Exchanging queens. I think White's only active pieces is queen on a4. If I manage to exchange it, perhaps he will be left without too much good things to say about his position. But the move bishop c6 kind of appeals to me. It doesn't have too many choices. It's 3 squares to run with the queen, when b4 is not very good because I take the pawn on a2. So he decided to go back to c2, but this is a welcome sign. Now my rook is straight against his queen. Now I can also kind of force the exchange of queens with queen f5. Is that something I like? I think I do like it. But I also like the idea of exchanging the bishops. These ones are really the pieces I want to exchange in order to stabilize. Actually, now that the queen is away, I think I can just play knight c4 with no troubles. Yeah, let's do this. If he decides to take my knight on c4, then I will have a wonderful light squared bishop. This is, I think from a strategic point of view, black is actually close to being winning. Actually, his pieces, I believe, are quite superior to their white's counterpart. Let's play solid with queen d7 or queen a5, slightly more active. I kinda like queen a5. Interesting. Let's go queen d7. He's very much low on time. I think he's about to get into the blunder zone very soon. The blunder zone is when one side has very little time to think, and then he's becoming extremely likely to blunder all kinds of stuff. Now some 95, knight b4 ideas are probably in the air. You can just consider a5. Let's play a5. It's a good prophylactic move. Knight b2. So he wants to exchange the knights. Do I want to exchange the knights? Well, I don't think I mind too much, because when the more pieces come off the board, the more the weakness on c3 becomes relevant. Let's push. Very long time. He went back to d3. Well, this is clever, because now with my last move he got access to the c5 square. Even though I'm not too worried, because I can always cover it with a bishop on f8 or a knight, but a knight would take some time to get there. So let's play bishop f8. Queen e2. All right. He wants maybe to simplify the position. Let's centralize the knight. The queen, I'm sorry, why I said the knight. 95. Okay. I don't mind once again exchanging. I just want to do it on my terms. Also, knight g4 becomes an idea now, so I might need to be a bit careful. Let's play h5. Just avoiding any kind of counterplay. h3, okay. That's a good sign. Let's harass him a bit with bishop a3. That's a good way to harass your opponent. Now I'm threatening to take on e5. Bishop g5. Now I believe this is losing material after bishop takes e5, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah. Now I am having two pieces for a rook. The pieces are very much superior to the rooks in this position. His rooks are completely out of scope, in my opinion. Now this should be technical. In addition to his material disadvantage, his position is also in ruins. I think I'll take this one. I don't see a reason not to. Now I also have this asset of a passed pawn. I think the easiest now would be to exchange the rooks with rook b8. Yes, this should be easy enough. If he declines the exchange of rooks, then I will penetrate on b2. So yes, things look bad for him now. So yeah, that's why he's trying to bring his king as fast as possible. Yeah, maybe I should have not exchanged the rooks actually. Yeah, now he's having some sort of, I wouldn't say counterplay, but some sort of hope. But should be solid enough for me. Let's get the king closer. Yeah, well, my king will eventually reach the center of the board. It would be essentially over for him. Yeah, my passed pawns on the a file are just too strong. Rook g1, well, he wants to check me on g5. This looks a bit pointless. I should not lose concentration. And bishop e7, I don't know why, but I like this move. I want to avoid any kind of rook g5 ideas. Now I want to start penetrating with the king. Let's get it as active as possible. Rook e1, okay. For some reason I don't have so much time. Yeah, when you don't have time, just move around a bit. Couldn't harm too much to move around. Perhaps my king on c4 is misplaced actually. Let's try this. Okay, let's take the pawn. Let's take the pawn. Yeah, I'm 3 points up in material value, but for some reason things are not so simple. Yeah. Yeah, actually I just missed the fact. Yeah. I'm still winning, of course, but yeah. I don't know why the time travel made it a bit more, or not a bit, much more complicated than it should have been. But I just have too many passed pawns to handle for him. I have like what? Okay, let's start pushing with this one also. Yes, this should be too easy right now. Yeah, he's continuing playing, but I think this is just agony. Yeah, he finally resigned. It was a good game. I actually quite happy that I found this a good opponent, and maybe I will make a rematch against him, so I will upload it later. Hope you enjoyed this game. It was quite, I believe, quite a nice one. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.